అంతే.
Hello,
Figure one,
figure 1, 2,
three,
3,
four.
4, 5, 6, 7.
आवाज आ रही है? 190 आवाज आ रही है?
आ रही है सर, आवाज आ रही है सर, क्लियर है सर।
ओके ओके, अभी मैं मेन स्टेज पे जाके बात कर रहा हूँ, वो चेक करना।
ओके सर।
कि जो वो तस्वीर बना के हम निकले से हम रंग भरना है साथ ही मैंने अब ये ठान लिया है क्या तो अब करना
क्या ना बंदा
क्या तो अब करना
एक लेके गया था फिर कौन बंदा लेकर रखेगा?
चाहे
190 कह दीजिए ना।
हाँ सर,
190 आवाज आ रही है? माइक माइक
आ रही है सर, आ रही है।
आ रही है ना? ओके।
हाँ सर, क्लियर है सर।
कोई मुश्किल हो या हो कोई मोर्चा साथ हर
190 आवाज आ रही है?
किस
आ रही है सर।
ओके ओके ठीक
अब जो भी हो तो शोला बन के पत्थर है पिघलाना अब जो भी हो बादल बन के पर्वत पर है जाना गंधों से मिलते हैं
33 कोर
कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं हम चल
33 कोर
के गिरते हैं
33 कोर
सर आवाज आ रहा है सर, आवाज आ रहा है सर।
स्ट्रेंथ 5।
हाँ, 10-5 मिल रहा है सर।
ओके
चेहरा अक्सर मुझे याद इस दिल को चुपके चुपके वो तड़पाता है कदमों से मिलते हैं कंधे कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे तो दिल दुश्मन के हिलते हैं अब तो हमें आगे बढ़ते हैं रहना अब तो हमें साथी है बस इतना ही कहना अब तो हमें आगे बढ़ते हैं रहना अब तो हमें साथी है बस इतना ही कहना अब जो भी हो शोला बन के पत्थर है पिघलाना अब जो भी हो बादल बन के पर्वत पर है छाना कंधों से मिलते हैं कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे तो दिल दुश्मन के हिलते हैं कंधों से मिलते हैं कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे तो दिल दुश्मन के हिलते हैं निकले हैं मैदान में हम चाहते भी पर लेकर अब देखो दम लेंगे हम जाके अपनी मंजिल पर कदमों से हंस के खेलना इतनी तो हमें हिम्मत है ओढ़े कलाई मौत की कितनी तो हमें ताकत है हम सरहदों के पास ये लोहे की एक दीवार है हम दुश्मनों के पास होशियार है तैयार है अब जो
है कि नहीं? हाँ, मुझे तो टाइम दे दिया है, सबके सामने
से कदम मिलते थे हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे जोश दिल में जगाते चलो जीत के गीत गाते चलो जोश दिल में जगाते चलो जीत के गीत गाते चलो जीत की जो तस्वीर बनाने हम निकले हैं अपने लहू से हमको उसमें रंग भरना है साथ ही मैंने अपने दिल में अब ये ठान लिया है क्या तो अब करना है क्या तो अब मरना है चाहे तारे बरस के बिजली गिरे तू अकेला नहीं होगा यारो मेरे कोई मुश्किल हो या हो कोई मोर्चा साथ हर मोड़ पर होंगे साथी तेरे अब जो भी हो तो शोला बन के पत्थर है पिघलाना अब जो भी हो बादल बन के पर्वत पर है जाना कंधों से मिलते हैं कंधे कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे तो दिल दुश्मन के गिरते हैं कहना अक्सर मुझे याद आता है, इस दिल को चुपके वो तड़पाता है। जब घर से ये कोई भी खत आया है, कागज को मैंने भीगा भीगा पाया है। ओ पलकों पे यादों के कुछ दीप जैसे जलते हैं, कुछ सपने ऐसे हैं जो साथ साथ चलते हैं। कोई सपना ना टूटे, कोई बात ना टूटे, चाहो जिसे दिल से वो सीधा रूट। अब जो भी हो तो शोला बन के पत्थर है पिघलाना, अब जो भी हो बादल बन के पर्वत पर है छाना। कदमों से मिलते हैं, कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं, हम जब ऐसे हो दुश्मन के दिल पे चलता है जब एक बार ऊंची सी है ये वादियाँ, है ये सब ये आसमां, है ये हवा, है ये समा, हर रास्ते में हर बात।
शुरू कर फटाफट। फटाफट मतलब फटाफट शुरू कर दे इसको, लगा मुंह के पास। May I now request the panel to open the floor for question. Question. May I now request the panel to open the floor for questions. Questions of classified nature may be asked as session is not being telecasted. Thank you everyone. May I now request the Corps Commander to kindly come up on the stage to facilitate the panelist and also for a group photograph. I request the panel to please come up ahead on the stage. May I now request the Corps Commander to deliver the closing address. The Corps Commander. Thank you, sir. May I now request Major General Neeraj Shukla, Sena Medal and Bar, General Officer Commanding Blazing Sword Division to deliver the vote for thanks. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we have come to end of the China seminar. Thank you for being patient audience. You are requested to proceed to Gajraj Officer Institute for lunch. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Check, my check. 1, 2, 3, 4, check.
बीच वाले May I now request the panel to open the floor for question. Question of classified nature may be asked as the session is not being telecasted. Thank you everyone. थोड़ा बनाना. May I now request the Corps Commander to kindly to the closing address. The Corps Commander, Sena Medal and War, General Officer Blazing Sword Division to deliver the vote for thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we have come to the end of the China seminar.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good.
May I now request the panel to open the floor for question. Question of classified nature may be asked as the session is not being telecasted. Thank you everyone. May I now request the Corps Commander to kindly come up on the stage to facilitate the panelist and also group photograph. I request the panel to please come ahead on the stage. May I now request the Corps Commander to deliver closing address. The Corps Commander. Thank you, sir. May I now request Major General Neeraj Shukla, Sena Medal and Bar. General Officer Commanding, Blazing Sorrow Division to deliver the vote for thanks. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we have come to the end of China seminar. Thank you for being patient audience. You are all requested to proceed Gajraj Officer Institute for lunch. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind. May I now request the panel to open the floor for question of classified nature may be asked as session is not being telecasted. Thank you everyone. May I now request Corps Commander to kindly come up on the stage to facilitate panelist and also group photograph. I request the panel to please come ahead on the stage. May I now request the Corps Commander to deliver closing address. The Corps Commander. Thank you, sir. May I now request Major General. हिंदी कहाँ से आ गया?
हमारा आवाज सही आ रहा इस इसका क्या मैंने दे दे
हो गया हो गया. तू क्या लेके आ गया? मेरे को बोलो. May I now request the panel to come to open the floor for question. Question of classified nature may be asked as the session is not being telecasted. Thank you everyone. May I now request the Corps Commander to kindly come up on the stage to facilitate the panelist and also for a group photograph. I request the panel to please come ahead on the stage. May I now request Corps Commander to deliver closing address. The Corps Commander. Thank you, sir. May I now request Major General Neeraj Shukla, Sena Medal and Bar, General Officer Commanding Blazing Sorrow Division to deliver. भाई फरेंगे धनंजय तू इधर ही बैठना भाई बताना मेरे को अगर बोलेगा डाउन बोलना है. हाँ साहब. ठीक.
कौन है कि पेपर
और नहीं है ना पेपर.
अच्छा बीच में बोलना
जैन सर. गुवाहाटी 4 सितंबर असम के पुलिस महानिदेशक भास्कर ज्योति मांद ने साइबर अपराध से निपटने के लिए देश में विभिन्न कानून प्रवर्तन एजेंसियों के बीच उचित समन्वय और संचार की जरूरत पर जोर दिया और कहा कि
May I now request the panel to open the floor for question. May I now request the panel to open the floor for question. Question of classified nature may be asked as the session is not being telecasted.
महंत ने शुक्रवार को असम सीडीआईडी के क्षेत्र में साइबर अपराध समन्वय केंद्र द्वारा आयोजित 2 दिवसीय
जैन सर.
उन्होंने कहा कि असम पुलिस ने साइबर अपराध के मामलों से निपटने को अहमियत दी है और उम्मीद जताई है कि देश के विभिन्न कानून प्रवर्तन एजेंसियों बीच प्रभावी समन्वय स्थापित करने में कार्यशाला काफी मददगार साबित होगी। एक
ठीक। ये माइक ऑन करना इधर क्या है ऐसे करके बोल रहे थे ये वाला हाँ हाँ कॉलम
फोर कोर साहब, फोर कोर,
हाँ सर।
कोर
हाँ सर।
सर 33 बोल रहा हूँ, आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ सर, आ रही है, आ रही है।
ओके, थैंक
अरे फैंटम दिया दीपक
जैन सर, फोर कोर सर,
हाँ सर।
जैन सर,
हाँ सर।
फोर कोर सर,
हाँ सर, आवाज आ रही है।
जैन सर, फोर कोर सर,
24 ब्रिगेड, आवाज आ रही है।
जैन सर,
हेलो।
20 सर,
24 लॉग आउट करके लॉग इन करो।
20 सर,
जैन सर
जैन सर,
24 है, 21 है, 14 कोर भी आ।
जैन सर
जैन सर,
24 ब्रिगेड, ब्रिगेड ब्रिगेड
तो बहुत नीचे बोलना पड़ रहा है ना यहाँ से बोले
24 ब्रिगेड।
जैन सर जैन सर
जय हिंद। हेलो हेलो।
जैन सर,
चेक 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 स्पीच में है
24 आवाज आ रही है।
May I now request the panel to open the floor for questions. Question of classified nature may be asked as the session is not being telecasted. Thank you everyone.
17 कोर।
ये
May I now request the corps commander to kindly come up on the stage to facilitate
17
panelists
कोर,
and also for a group photograph.
आवाज आ
I
रही है।
request
17
the
कोर।
panel to please come ahead on the stage. May I now request the corps commander to deliver closing address. The corps commander.
17 कोर,
जैन साहब,
आवाज आ रही है।
आ रही सब आ रही है।
ये आपका फाइनल लोकेशन है।
नहीं साहब, ये सिस्टम से लॉगिन किया अभी।
जो फाइनल लोकेशन से आ जाओ जल्दी।
साहब
ईस्टर्न कमांड, ईस्टर्न कमांड,
सारे कनेक्टर्स को और आप लगे परीक्षा लिस्ट आ गई टीचर भाई 10 गेन ज्यादा है
17 ईस्टर्न कमांड सर।
सर
हेलो हेलो माइक चेक फिगर 1 2 3 हेलो 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 माइक चेक फिगर 1 2 3 ये दीपक तीन को थोड़ा बढ़ाना हेलो हेलो माइक चेक फिगर 1 दीपक कार्तिक 3 नंबर बढ़ाओ थोड़ा हेलो हेलो माइक चेक फिगर 1 2 3 अप करो थोड़ा ठीक है हेलो हेलो माइक चेक फिगर 1 2 3 ठीक है हेलो हेलो माइक
Jai Hind officers, on behalf of Lieutenant General Gambhir Singh, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Yudh Seva Medal, General Officer Commanding Gajraj Ko, we welcome all our esteemed panelists for the balanced two sessions of the seminar and panel discussion, Gajraj Manthan. We have covered a large canvas, starting from global strategic deterrence and transformation to compellence, the narrative for South Tibet, and our adversaries' military modernization. Today, we focus on the formidable challenge for India in the grey zone and our response to it, spanning multiple domains. Session 4 will dwell upon the defense against grey zone warfare. Since this session is being telecast live on YouTube, officers are requested to refrain from asking questions of classified nature. May I now request the panelists for session 4 to kindly come up on the stage from the stairs onto your right side. The program for session 4 is flashed before you on the screen. After session 4, a tea break will be organized. Officers are requested to proceed to the designated locations for tea. While the panelists are getting seated, let me briefly introduce the panel. The credentials and achievements of each of the panelists have been given to you in the brochure. Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal. General Dushyant was commissioned into the Maratha Light Infantry Regiment in December 1981. He holds the distinction of having served twice in the elite National Security Guard as the Deputy Inspector General Operations and the Inspector General Operations. A prolific writer on India's national security, his book Grey Zone Warfare Way Ahead for India is quite popular in the strategic community. He was Vice Chairman of Strive India think tank and Professor Emeritus Rashtriya Raksha University. Major General Manjeet Singh Sena Medal. General Manjeet was commissioned into the Corps of Signals in December 1987. He commanded a specialist signals unit under active counterinsurgency conditions and an infantry division signal regiment as part of a strike corps. After a highly successful tenure as Chief Signal Officer of a corps in the Valley, he steered the raising of the Defense Cyber Agency and Services Cyber Groups while serving in the Defense Information Assurance and Research Agency. His last posting was as Joint Secretary Cyber at the National Security Council Secretariat and has continued there after his retirement in February 2024. Mr. Alok Vijayant, a former Group Director, Chief Instructor and Director, Cyber Security Operations at the National Technical Research Organization, he pioneered several initiatives such as the Indian National Cyber Registry and the National Security Database. He has also been Assistant General Manager, Reserve Bank of India, New Delhi from December 2000 to August 2003. His academic qualifications include a Certificate of Proficiency as well as an Advanced Diploma of Proficiency in Mandarin language from the School of Foreign Languages, New Delhi. He has attended several conferences and seminars as a keynote speaker both in India and abroad. May I now request General Dushyant Singh to commence the proceedings for session 4. General Dushyant Singh.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Jai Hind. At the outset, it gives me great pleasure to be here at Tejpur after a duration of almost 6-7 years. When I was the Chief of Staff, Eastern Command, I had come here, but to this auditorium, I'm coming for the first time. And I must thank General Gambhir for having given Claus the opportunity to be part of this particular seminar. Also, I would like to greet my elders and colleagues who are part of this particular seminar and the esteemed panelists who have just been introduced by the MC. I would like to only add few words about the panelists. First of all, about Alok. As far as Alok is concerned, he's a thorough professional. As far as information warfare is concerned, he has worked in the NTRO. Plus, he's very active also currently in the strategic security experts committees community. So you're going to hear a totally different perspective as far as information warfare is concerned, and we eagerly look forward to listening to him. Of course, I have heard him on a number of occasions, and I'm sure those who have not heard him will benefit a lot. As far as Manjeet is concerned, Jan Manjeet, of course, has been working in his field almost now for over 7-8 years, and I think that should give him a hands-on experience to relate to you all. Due to constraints of the particular seminar being streamed on YouTube, uh, his session would be not streamed because of certain classified nature of information which he might be speaking to us. But I leave it to him as to how much he wants to cover as far as the classified portions are concerned. That's for you to take a call. But I am sure there is so much in the open source that people would be aware of what exactly is happening as far as cyber wars are concerned within our country. With that, I will briefly like to introduce the subject before we launch into the panel discussion proper. In my view, the nature of warfare is changing, and there are three major things which are dictating this change. First of all, is the geopolitics. I think geopolitics is totally becoming. I have four words for it. First is it's becoming capricious. It's becoming fluxed, and it is also becoming very unpredictable, in the sense that we are really not able to foresee as to what might happen and where it might happen. So therefore, we are looking at a world which is going on to become very unpredictable, and therefore our approach or strategies also have to be very dynamic if we want to survive in this kind of a world. uh, the next issue which I would like to highlight is that gray zone warfare is nothing new. I would like to quote from Kautilya just to explain to you all as to how old this particular concept is. Only the form has changed. Technology, because of its, I call it a tsunami of technologies, and that has given a different kind of a dynamics and dimensions to gray zone warfare. Kautilya said, in the art of war, deception is often the greatest weapon, and gray zone is all about being street smart. Unless we are street smart, we will not be able to navigate through gray zone. He further goes on to say, an arrow shot by an archer may or may not kill a single person, but skillful intrigue devised by a wise man may kill even those who are in the womb. In the end, could be achieved by non-military methods, even by methods of intrigue, duplicity, and fraud. I would not advocate conflict. Read conflict as war. So therefore, gray zone is now becoming the preferred frontier of warfare. A few years back, when I started off with this particular subject, it became my specific area of interest. When I was the commandant of Army War College, I used to call it an emerging frontier of warfare. But 5 years down the line, I think it is now the preferred frontier of warfare, and that's why in my opening slide I mentioned this particular word. Going on to what exactly is gray zone warfare. If you look at this particular formulation, again, this was actually uh, uh, created by me, essentially as part of my book. as to what is a gray zone warfare. I had drawn on Hoffman's perception of what is gray zone war, which was very common. So during the peer review, somebody told me that, this is a very old formulation of gray zone warfare. So why don't you come up with something which is different? And so therefore, when I looked at the entire areas or domains of gray zone warfare, I realized it covers almost everything which you can think of. Earlier, it was always viewed as a negative domain, where everything shady happens. I'm afraid in gray zone warfare, there could be shadiness, there could be also positiveness. So there are positive actions which are done by states to secure their national interests. There is a strategic competition which takes place in gray zone warfare, but that competition is both positive as well as negative. So a positive step would mean it would not mean that he's having something good in his mind. Look at the three initiatives with the Chinese have undertaken: GCI, GSI, and GDI. On the face of it, they look positive, but actually, if you look at their border well-off villages, they are seemingly a positive projects, but actually the intention behind it is totally different. So we got to be very, very decisive, very, very careful when we try to look and analyze what is happening in the gray zone warfare. Uh, Yesterday, I don't know whether General Narayanan spoke about it. We used to call the emerging world as VUCA world, vulnerable, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But today, the world is becoming, like I had earlier highlighted, a Bani world. A Bani world is brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible world. So we've gone a stage further as far as gray zone warfare is concerned. Coming on to the other issues, why do countries prefer gray zone? Answer is very simple. If you look at the view foil or slide, I think they are self-explanatory. Minimum cost, maximum gains. Win or secure your interest if possible without fighting. If forced to fight through other means, including proxies. So there is an element of hard or kinetic action also involved in gray zone warfare. The condition is that it should not be attributable to you. But the Russians have even changed that. I mean, they are disregarding the attributability part of it. If you look at their campaign from 2014 till 2022, when they actually went in for the war, it was more or less attributed. Their actions, the kinetic actions, are more or less attributed to the Russians. Info and cyber war are the most preferred means of gray zone warfare, and that is why this panel today has two experts who will be dilating on the information and cyber defense. What does China do? It does unrestricted warfare and 3W strategy. I'll talk about it more during my presentation, so I'm not going to labor much on it. But last thing which I want to leave you all with before I hand over the stage to the panelists is the definition of gray zone warfare. What happens is that like all terms which are coined, mostly they get coined by the Western security fraternity. This also got coined by the West, but it has some origins in the East as well. Gerasimov is also attributed to having created some kind of a gray zone discourse in the Eastern Bloc. But as it happens, whether it is terrorism, whether it is war, I hope all of you know that there is no commonly understood definition of war till now. Similarly, there is no commonly acceptable definition of terrorism. And similarly, there is no commonly accepted definition of gray zone warfare. There are two major streams of gray zone warfare definition. The first one is what is flashed, that is the Hoffman's explanation, which says that a conceptual space between war and peace that involves long-term strategic considerations in international competition. This is the Hoffman's explanation. When I did my research in my book, I tended to go beyond this, and I feel that this is a much better explanation of gray zone warfare, which is the definition initially given out by Andrew Kordsman, which says every activity that has an impact on achieving strategic advantage vis-a-vis your adversary in a strategic competition or conflict, military or non-military, and falls short of conventional war and beyond the routine activities using positive, negative, or neutral actions. Mind these three words: positive, negative, and neutral actions in multifarious domains will be considered as part of a gray zone conflict. I think if you look at this particular definition, you'll find you will be able to explain whatever the northern adversary is doing against us. And finally, the tools which we have already spoken about enough. Cyber information regime changes is something which is very interesting, but I will not labor on that in this particular session. Suffice it to say that it's a old tactic. It's old tactic mastered by the CIA. They had done till 1990 115 regime changes. So you can imagine this kind of a warfare is nothing new. They used to call it as political warfare in those days. You have psychological, legal, cartographic, covert, assassination, sabotage. Assassination, covert operations, Israel is the past master as far as this kind of a gray zone activity is concerned. All of you are seeing it. They are executing it to perfection right from 1945 onwards. So with that, now I'll hand over the floor first to Alok, and then we'll go to Manjeet. Over to you, Alok. I have modified these slides because they are streaming. You can stream it? We can stream it? We can stream. Okay. Alok, Alok, before you start, I would like to just inform that Manjeet has modified his presentation so we can stream it on the YouTube. This should not be a problem. So I can move it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I must first of all thank General Gambhir for giving me an invite to speak on this topic of information operations, counter operations, narratives, misinformation, disinformation, and whole gamut of information operations related stuff. I have handled this subject for the national security establishment for almost 17 years, from 2005 onward to 2022. And in 22, I took my exit. You want to? Solutions? Oh, that's fine. Yeah. No, thank you. I'll show it. Actually, let the water flowers and found it. Let the water flower. I'll be connecting you. Yes, sir. This will take 2 minutes to just connect my system. It's log out. Yes. Mr. Presenter से move करेगा ना दिया हुआ है यहाँ से इस पे करना है इस वाले के बाद में जस्ट इसके नेक्स्ट में एक और प्रेजेंटेशन है वो चला स्लो है बहुत
Alok, if there is a technical hitch,
It's done, sir. Okay, I was just connecting. ठीक है. So when it comes to China, basically it's like an elephant. We all have heard that story of elephant, you know, and the seven blind men. So we have always handled China in that way. First, I don't know for what reason we are scared. We have not got out of that 62 mentality. We are still looking at China as a big giant. Uh, China can be best exhibited if you watch a YouTube movie. YouTube, there is a video on how does a mongoose hit a cobra and kills a cobra. That's a perfect example of an asymmetric battlefield where you have a potentially kinetically lesser that adversary is able to actually beat a kinetically more stronger enemy, and it's fantastic if you look at it. If there is a video available on YouTube, the way mongoose actually encircles the snake, the cobra, is very interesting, and you will be able to just keep your mind in that place. That look at mongoose as a, though it's much bigger giant now, not a mongoose anymore, but then the way it encircles the snake, the way it actually excites, provokes the cobra is very interesting to note. You'll be able to relate a lot of things. What happens on the asymmetric battlefield, you'll be able to see that how does it tire the snake, how does he actually go around. At times he behaves that, okay, I have not seen you, I'm not at all interested in you, goes around, circles around, comes, and with his agility and with his ability to take decision quickly, he just strikes once and kills. That's it. So this movie is a worth watch. You must watch this. That thing, I think, yet not connected. So that's one very interesting. Second thing, when you talk about information operations, you see, I'll not be giving you more of macro view. I'll basically, I am a hands-on practitioner, so I'll give you a lot of inner details of how information operations are carried out. I may not throw a lot of jargons because I'm not a very well-read man. I don't read books. I observe the environment and learn from the environment. I have not read any books for any of these things, so I may not know what gray zone and black zone and what are the shades of darks, but I'll be able to tell you exactly how it is done. I'll be able to tell you how Chinese actually operate. What you see today, why I said that the elephant and the seven blind men is, we all talk about, you talk in the national security establishment or you talk at the national senior levels, they will all tell you PLA, 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 and PLA. Has anyone seen the budget of PLA? You'll not find it. You'll not find it. So many people have talked about it. We tried looking for it, when I was handling China operations. We tried looking for the budget of PLA, because that's the first thing by which you can assess that, what is the quality of weapon they are going to procure, what is the kind of infrastructure they are planning for the military part of it. So when we started looking at it, we found that PLA doesn't have a budget as PLA. And then I related, okay, where does the NTRO budget come from? So then I realized, okay, that means it has to be hidden into some organized structure where that budget goes and gets parked, and then it is utilized by the agencies wherever they are. So when we started hunting and when we went a little deep inside, to various cyber operations and other operations, we realized that there's something known as police museum. So police museum is something which you can never imagine that police museum can have such a large budget. Then when we started peeping into it, I'll show you last slide only because this is getting, so now it's available on the dark web also, so I can safely show that. My last slide will actually show you that what it actually includes. What does it mean? 2010, I had been to Seattle for delivering a talk on future use of internet by terrorists. And there I met one very old aged person He was that time he was group commander of Al Qaeda Taliban monitoring cell in UN. So while having lunch, he actually spelled out one very interesting thing to me. He said that, Alok, what Beijing is to Islamabad, your Dharamshala is to New Delhi. I couldn't actually relate. To be very honest, I couldn't relate at that time because it was just over a lunch and said. So on my way back, I just mulled over it. What does it mean? Then I started looking at what are the problems do we have when we do cyber operations on typically on this country. So the basic problem is not about technology. Let me tell you, I have handled this cyber operation for 17 years now, and technologically, cyber mein, this country was never a challenge. The challenge was very different. The outer periphery that they have, the main security line which they have created is not cyber. It's not the what we normally start looking at, the Great Firewall of China and their Pi2 and so on and so forth. These are no challenges. Actually, there are no challenges technically because first thing, the majority of their system thrives on piracy. They retrofit things, they pick up softwares, they pick up operating systems, they make a little modification into it, then start serving. They never uh, uh, you know, buy licenses to do it, including Microsoft. We go back 2007. 2007, there was a news which said that 1 million computer in China got devastated because of a faulty update that came from Symantec. You go back in this list. These are very, very planned operations. Because immediately Symantec came up and said that, okay, it was a faulty updates that we pushed and it affected the XP version, Chinese beta version of XP. That is what it affected. So we will compensate the user by paying some compensation. Now 1 million computer got destroyed and the payment that was made by Symantec to the genuine user was 7,000 licenses. Because there were only 7,000 genuine licenses which were actually bought by China. Rest of them were also. So in one go, the state-owned systems of the Western countries can actually ruin you apart. So the global dependence of the bigger groups, the Microsoft and others, is a bigger challenge than what we are looking at today. So what I'm going to talk on is information operations the smart way. Why I have written the smart way is because everyone says that social media, dark web, they're all bad things. You should be very careful about it. I said that the bad things are also good for use. So in all my talks, I say that just I'll give you a premise for this. Why I'm saying this entire thing is because while in my previous organization, we used to report a lot about defense officers getting compromised on their mobile phones, on their computers, and we used to report. And typically, we have a tendency that the moment you find a defense officer getting infected, the first thing is seize his mobile, check his mobile, block him, do all kinds of court of inquiries and things like that. It's a very wrong tendency because what the adversary wants, it is your system itself starts doing it to you. If you get infected, now I tell you the negative use of in fact, the good use of such kind of things. When you get infected, you are a beautiful source of misinformation. How you are a beautiful source of misinformation? Because if I, as an attacker, infect your machine, I take pains to infect your machine, I rate your machine as very credible machine. So any information that comes out of your machine, I take it that it is genuine and it has to be taken seriously. So if your machine is infected, it's a beautiful piece of instrument for misinformation. Just keep it on side. Don't penalize that officer. So this is what I have been telling them. At times what happens is you want to build up a narrative and you don't have adequate evidences for it. You don't have anything. In fact, there is nothing. There is no event has happened and you still want to create a narrative. So your narrative cannot get pushed into the minds of the people because this is a cognitive battle. It cannot get pushed unless it is supported by evidences, it is supported by statistics, it is supported by analysis. But हिंदी में एक बहुत सुंदर वर्ड है, इसको हम कहते हैं अन्योक्ति पद्धति. If I keep crying, I am very good, nobody's going to listen to me. Everyone will say, hey, it's self-bragging. But what happens if 10 people start speaking about me and say that he's very good? Then people start to go, okay, 10 log bol rahe hain to acha hi hoga. So this is known as anyokti. Matlab, let somebody else say something. So now how do you make it? You have no piece of evidence for any event that you want to actually create a narrative for. So what you do? Dark web. Now everyone says dark web में चीज आता है, leakage आते हैं, dark web leaks. How did dark web leaks become so credible that people believe it? Panama paper leak, dark web पे आ गया, पक्का होगा, sure होगा, inquiry करो. So you want to get any inquiry done anywhere? Just create data, post it on dark web, and give a link, leak the link. So the moment you leak the link, everyone starts looking at it, download it, see it, and start believing it over a period of time. So this is what information battle is going to be won. You have deception is a word, good, but how do you do deception of information? Is like this. You create evidences, you manipulate information, you doctor information, spin it in whatever direction you want to spin. That is what is information battlefield. So just going through what is this information domain in a very layman's terms, you will just understand it. I think my white ones are not available, but it's not visible. So psychological operations, cyber operations, electronic warfare, public affairs, deception operations, civil military operations, intelligence operations, strategic operations. That is what that creates the entire gamut of information domain per se. Why I have written foggy is because cyber provides you a way to be invisible, to be omnipresent. That's a feature of cyber. You cannot have two generals actually operating at two fronts today. In physical battlefield, you cannot. But in cyber, you can have single general actually operating the entire world, the global. That is what is the beauty of this game, cyber. You can be present at a lot of places. You can also clone yourself. That what it means is that you can have multiple you. You can have multiple profile of you working at different locations and actually acting the way you want to. Plus, in addition, when you have AI and machine learning getting implemented in the game of cyber warfare, the things are going to be more complicated because the same decision maker is making decision as per the situation in real time using robotics and MLs. So these are some of the general terms: propaganda, disinformation, misinformation, psychological warfare. These are all part of the game. I'll not go into it. Now, these are the instruments. The instruments of IW, I operations. These are the instruments. So offensive cyber operations. Now, why I have segregated these four as they're typically the payloads actually differ in all the four cases. Like, I'll just give you an example in a very layman's terms. If I want information from you, I will have my payload slowly, gradually glean information from your device and send it to me at a location. That is what the payload will decide, whether it is an espionage instrument or it is an instrument of intelligence extraction and so on. But the dilemma of any cyber technical resources that he is blindfolded. He doesn't know whom he has hit. It is accidental always. So when you hit, you do not know whether this machine is an information rich machine or a resource rich machine or it's a useless machine. But किसी भी machine को compromise करने में or to get into that machine, you put in a lot of efforts. And when you put in effort for getting something, you don't want to lose it, even if it is useless. So how do we classify these systems as in three categories? One is information rich systems where the payloads are going to be of espionage nature. So it'll not be very buggy. It will not keep generating triggers. It will silently glean information of importance and send it back to the command and control wherever the attacker wants to actually send it to. The second one is the resources systems. Now, in one of the conference where I was training some judges, so it was an after lunch session and people like judges are normally relaxed people. They half of them were sleeping. So then I just raised a question that how many of you feel that your computers are not that important to be protected? No, so many of them said we don't do anything on computers and all that kind of thing. This is I'm talking about 2006. So I said, please give me your address because your machine is a very, very good machine for me as a hacker. So I said, how it is? I said, you see, if I pivot on your machine and do some crime or do some kind of an attack anywhere, to reach me will become very difficult for any law enforcement because to have access to your computer itself will be a big task for the law enforcement because you'll have to take whole lot of approvals and whole lot of clearances to get hold of your computer. Then you will do forensics. And for me, I just need 2 weeks or 3 weeks of time. By that time, I'll get lost from your machine. So that actually woken up everyone, because it's not important that your system does not contain any data. Your system may have good resources that can be utilized. One of the detection that we had done, we called it Hello from Pakistan. This was something very interesting where a lot of defense officers were compromised, and in fact, the mobile phone which got infected was picking up the ambient photographs randomly at any other locations. It was picking up voice, it was picking up. So we reported that entire thing. What I'm trying to say is every machine is important for an attacker. Only thing it deciphers later that whether this particular machine is going to give me information or it is going to be used for any other purpose. So offensive cyber operations is one of the prime factors in fact, it's a prime instrument for any of the information operations that are going to happen. Now, this can, we have been using this word force multiplier, that cyber or IW is going to be a force multiplier for our kinetic actions. I'll tell you something very interesting. When Georgian attack took place, it actually shook my paradigms because I don't read books. So I had my own view of IW, that how IW and what place it will be deployed, at what time it will be deployed by any of the forces in the battlefield. So I always thought that IW is only going to operate before the beginning of a war, before the beginning of a declared war. But when Georgian attack took place, the entire globe, in all the media, they were all talking about that when the Russian tanks went inside Georgia, then the waves of cyber attacks actually started happening. It will never happen. Let me tell you why it will not happen. Because the moment you have a declared offensive, the first thing to be cut off is the communication lines. The moment the communication lines gets cut off, then you are not able to reach the infrastructure, information infrastructure, you will never reach it. So that's why the paradigm that, the information operations will happen alongside the kinetics, I have my doubts. I may be wrong, but I have my doubts that it will ever happen like this. Influence operations. Now, this is something very interesting because each one of us are today actually talking about the country, which is our immediate threat. I said technically it is not very difficult to handle this dragon. But physically and psychologically, it's a very, very big game. I have seen it too close. I have had very close encounters. And it's not about doing something and finding something about this country, but it is about protecting yourself against something which can hit you below the belt. That is where I talk about this influence operations, where they are very, very effective. They have presence everywhere. So, we can talk offline on this, but then influence operation is something they're very strong at. We have to be very careful about it. The people who are handling it, you can be hit below the belt physically or emotionally, or even your family can be disturbed. Propaganda and manipulations, I think everyone does it, and so they also do it. So these are all quotes which are taken from somewhere from Sun Tzu, Mao Zedong, and a lot of places. We have all seen this. But in Sabka Master stroke is there in our Srimad Bhagavat. While they talk about blind and seal the enemy's eyes and ears and so on, our Srimad Bhagavat doesn't tell you to blind and seal. It tells you that show him what you want to show him, make him hear what you want him to hear. And that is what Srimad Bhagavad tells you. You must, in fact, if you are a practitioner of this information warfare game or the hybridized warfare game, you must read it not from that Shastra point of view or anything, but from the point of view that you are going to wage a battlefield which is hybrid in nature, where you are going to mix a lot of things together. You name a situation today, whether it is creating virtual environments, to changing the weather, to anything, misinformation like Ashwatthama. So all the instances of it is actually present in Srimad Bhagavat, and in fact, I have been writing on this. Every shlok I pick up and write, give a technical interpretation of this. So I'll discuss over the. So this is a fantastic example of an asymmetric battlefield. So this is very normal. I'm just skipping these slides because there are a lot to show. Now, hybrid warfare, we have talked about hybrid warfare. What we have missed out on a lot of things is the first one, unconventional. This has been used earlier. Nobody talks about it. But think about it. The place where we are sitting is supposed to be a very stronghold of the first unconventional. We have not tapped it yet. We have done it at a lot of places, and we have not done it, but this practice has been done at a lot of places in a lot of wars. You will read through it, that occult, the unconventional, the spiritual, the Vedanta, the mantras, they have been used to win wars earlier. This I'll skip because this one. So the main topic for today was, so it was just the beginning which I had just made it, countering information and misinformation. So the key aspects of Chinese PSYOPs is the strategic objectives are very clear. This is an influence perceptions, undermine adversaries. This is the second goal which they have, and enhance their national image. These are the three major goals they have, and in order to pursue this particular goal, they do a lot of activities that we have seen it over the last days. Target audience is the domestic population, the foreign governments, the global public, and the diaspora communities. They are very, very careful about their diaspora because they are their ears and eyes. And if they don't act as their ears and eyes, that is the time they use their local policing, which they have injected in a lot of countries now. They use all kinds of threat messages. They use all kinds of extradition, that they ask them to go back to the country and so on. So they pressurize on very different mediums. Australia has even reported about it, this entire thing, that they have their active policing inside Australia. They have a couple of counties like this. Methods and tactics for achieving these objectives are propaganda, social media manipulation, cultural diplomacy, disinformation campaigns, cyber operations, and legal warfare. The rest of it is all known. Legal warfare, I'll give you a very, very specific example. In year 2015, if you go back, you search in Google, you will find that there used to be a mega conference known as Ground Zero Summit. I don't know whether you have heard of it. It used to happen in Delhi. So 2015, there was an advisory issued by the Indian Air Force that Xiaomi phones are leaking data to China. Now, I'll tell you the legal aspect. How do they fight the legal battle? This I'll tell you. And how did we strategically win, which we did not exploit ever. So this Xiaomi company, so we were short of funds actually for this particular conference, Ground Zero Summit. So we wanted to advertise free. That means, news guys should actually pick up something, and then, our conference gets advertised. That was the entire aim with which we created a document and said that, okay, Xiaomi is sending data to a Chinese server. So there is a speaker from Taiwan who wants to actually present this paper. And the PTI covered it. The moment PTI covered it, Xiaomi phones actually they got very interested that what is that they are going to show, because they wanted to know. So they got in touch with my conference organizer. And they asked him that what is that you are going to show. He said that we have some data which was getting transferred to China, and one presenter from Taiwan wants to speak on it, so we have allowed him. He said, no, please don't allow it, because we are listed on NASDAQ and we will lose on that. So second time when he gave a call, he started threatening. He said, you don't know who we are. We are the second largest manufacturer of mobile phone, third largest manufacturer of mobile phones in the world. We will ruin you. We will disturb you. This, that, whatever they said. So my conference organizer was a complete local Delhi wala. So he used some of the words which are very often used in Delhi. And he said, तुम्हें जो करना है कर लो, मैं तो अभी चलाऊंगा करके. So after 7 days, they again came back. And said that we can talk, we can discuss, because the Nasdaq Xiaomi rates actually fell by 30%. So they were worried. So one person known as Hakabura, he got in touch with us. He sits in Singapore. Xiaomi ka CTO hai. So he got in touch and he said that we will fund your conference for 10 years. We can sign up with you. So please don't stage it. So he said that we'll get bad name if we actually cancel the thing. So we asked him. Now I'll tell you what I'm coming on to the legal part of it. This is very important. You must know it. So we said that, okay, if you get me a Delhi High Court order, then I will not stage your show. I'll not permit it. Otherwise, I have no locus standi to actually cancel the thing, because I'll get bad name for my conference. So he said, but why should Delhi High Court give me this order? So I said that we will arrange. So we gave him battery of lawyers, and we did not resist. We let the Delhi High Court issue an order saying that, okay, this particular talk will not be showcased in this conference, and they appointed 2 attorneys. This is all in news. You can actually go and verify it. So they made 2 attorneys sit through the conference and write a report and ensure that this talk was not showcased during the conference. That gave a lot of boost to the conference, because it came in newspapers and all that. High Court intervenes for this, that, all that kind of thing. So we got that good name also. Second thing what happened is, which we did not realize then, is that they have, being a Chinese company, they have succumbed to the Indian court. They have come down to the Indian court. That we did not realize at that time. It was a strategic win, if you look at it. So we did not showcase it, and things happened. We did not remove the talk. But at the time when the talk was scheduled, the conference organizer just went on the stage and said that, okay, look, we are constrained not to show this. But to be very honest, it was a brilliant information operation, because that Taiwanese never existed. You know, that the paper was created of nowhere. There was nothing. It was just a trigger which came from Indian Air Force, who had issued an advisory. And just on the basis of this advisory, this entire information game was planned and operated. 1 year later, Ericsson came to us and said that, can you give us that court order? I said, what will you do with that court order? So he said, you look, Xiaomi has to pay us some money on royalty. And they say that if you have to fight a case, you have to come to Beijing to fight the case. Since they have come to Delhi High Court, so there is a precedent. So this will help us. So we said that, see, they have sued us for 1 crore. So you'll have to take care of this case. So they said, okay, we'll take care of this case. We gave the orders to them. And again, Ericsson, which is not an Indian company, they have a subsidiary here, but that's not a pure, perfect Indian company. They again filed a case in Delhi High Court. And Delhi High Court order sees all the devices from Nehru Place, Xiaomi. And when they pay the money, it has to be paid in High Court. And then only their device will be sold. Yeah. So this is what is that legal warfare. Probably they lost this one, but they normally win this warfare. They engage in a lot of lawyers and so on and so forth, and they do this kind of a thing. So the countering part of it. Now, why we don't succeed when it comes to China, when it comes to information operation, why we don't succeed? First of all, we have a tendency to believe that if language is the problem, recruit linguists. If hacking is the problem, recruit hackers. But none of these are actually good solutions. The solution is you need one hat which can handle both, which is rare in the world. You can count numbers, you can do a head count who are pure hackers and also know this language. They're very limited in number. Very limited. I can tell you, globally, you can count numbers. That's why these resources are so scarce that everyone across the globe is looking for such kind of resources. And trust me, India has the largest number of such professionals who are there. The only thing is we don't hunt them down. So that relates me to the same old man who met me in Seattle, who said that what Dharmshala is to New Delhi, Beijing is to Islamabad, is Dharmshala is to New Delhi. That gave me the trigger. Okay. So the only way to handle this giant is first, the hackers must learn the language, which is very difficult. If you go and learn Mandarin, the time and effort that you need to put in learning Mandarin, you can learn 3 or 4 different languages. So if you just want to color your resume, you should learn 4 other languages, not Chinese. Second thing, the entire structure is laid out in such a way that one ISI information from maybe a inspector level person gives you more excitement at the senior level than a PLA general's information. Because we are not in a position to appreciate what comes on from a Chinese PLA general or whatever. I have seen it too close. In fact, I gave presentation to NSA, then Shiv Shankar manager. So they get excited. Not Shiv Shankar manager, Mr. Narayanan. So they get excited by that policing attitude. Okay, ISI ka banda hai, bahut acha bade. You got a good job done, and so on. So China no more excites us. It doesn't excite. We only think, we उसको क्या कहते हैं? We dream कि कभी China होगा हमारे पास. But it's like my last slide. It's a little. So scope and scale. We need to have a persistence in the system. We do operations, the Chinese operations in silo. I think I'm losing on time, so I'll move on. We do Chinese operations in silos. Everyone say that I am doing it. The moment you go and talk to somebody, I have talked to a lot of people in the defense at a lot of places. They all say that हमारे पास बहुत कुछ है. When you go and see it actually, you will be surprised to know that you have nothing actually. You have nothing. You have everything what the European have told you or the Americans have told you. Everyone bases, their assumption on how the bureaus are laid out in China. That's 61398 and so on and so forth. It is all based on Project 2050, which was published by Americans. The entire layout diagram. People have picked it up from there and they have shown it. This is the way how it is. This is the bureau here, Lanchow here, this here, that here. This is all laid out in Project 2050. There is a complete compendium of, it was released sometime in 2012 or 2013. That is what everyone carries. So, this is what we need to do, dope. It's a very common word in defense. So, dope. Distract, deceive, divide, deter, overload, paralyze, specify, provoke, pressurize, and exhaust. Each word is an operation in itself and a different kind of operation. You need to carry out very differently all these things. So these are, you would have heard of a lot of APTs, Advanced Persistent Threat Actors. So they are the ones who are laid out. There are 32 of them as of now. And this is all handled by MSS and United Front. So United Front actually looks at the perception, the gray zone part of it. MSS looks at pure intelligence, counterintelligence, counteroffensive. This what is the difference between the two. Now, what's my observation from all the Chinese operations that have happened over the past 10 or 12 years is they have very great clarity of targets. They know exactly whom they are targeting. They're very, very specific. All the attacks that have come on Indian entities, Indian individuals, they have all been perfectly targeted. So they don't do loose spamming and those kind of an attack. They're very clear. Specialized groups for different operations. When we detected some of the attacks, we found the code words given to hackers groups, the Bobo test, Bobo test 10, Bobo test 11, Bobo test 12. That used to measure their performance level. That is what it used to happen. So I'll just take 5 more minutes, sir. I think I have overshot the time, sir. Then every group has got their own insignia. They are very structured. They take pride in maintaining their insignia, whatever it is. Like they call themselves white pandas. Some of them call themselves something else, that way. So they maintain their name and they take pride in actually saying that I am from white pandas. These are all hacking groups which I am talking about. These are some of the psyops that has taken place. I'll not. Now this is something very interesting. Now what do you make out of it? So these are your resources. You must tap them. It looks like it's a hacking group, TNCU. This is Tibetan National Cyber Unit. Now, these are natural, they should be your natural allies who should be working on this. I'm not saying that you subscribe to this view diplomatically or whatever it is, but what I'm trying to say is that enemy's enemy is your friend. As simple. That's the theory which you have to work on. This is the kind of information. Now, this is all available on dark web. So I just picked it up from dark web because I was told not to classify, give out any classified. So last night, in fact, I pulled it out from somewhere. Now, this is what is the perception of the dragon today. Though I have shown it as an elephant because it's an old story. We look at certain parts of things and then we never talk to each other to actually join the dots together. And that is one of the reasons we do not have much of Chinese appreciation today. We have information available in tidbits here and there, but we do not have a consolidated IW view of this particular country, where we can say that, okay, if tomorrow I have to actually identify all the pipelines, gas pipelines, all the refineries, can I actually find out the point of loose connects? We don't have it as of now. So, Russia-Ukraine war. This I had not included, but I'll just like to share this information with you because I have been a part of some small part of it. There was a great learning from there. In year 2012, there was a group known as RBN, Russian Business Network, and it used to operate from Russia, and they used to run the world when it comes to digital currencies. The currencies used to be known as Liberty Reserve and Web Money. They were the two currencies which Russians used to use. They were all mafias. They used to fund politburos and so on. All of a sudden, one day, their site got locked and it started reporting that seized by FBI and closed. So Liberty Reserve was closed in 2012, and then came the Bitcoins, BTCs. And there were a lot of raids by Interpol, and these RBN network actually got dispersed. Some of them went into real estate business, some of them opened up hotels, resorts, and so on. So they moved out of IT framework completely. When this Russia-Ukraine war took place, they got an opportunity. They were called by the KGB because they were earlier also in touch with the KGB. They were called by them and they were asked that this is a time for you to actually avenge. Do you want to do it? And if you look at that, the siege of Kiev, this I am telling you the first-hand information. It's not available anywhere. It's now known to a lot of people also. So the Kiev was seized in a very, very typical style. And that is what I want to let you know, that, when you talk about the nuclear deterrence, or when you talk about, how do you protect your Chegis codes and so on, they're very important. Why Kiev was not seized in one day? Russians could have done it in one day. They took a lot of time to actually encircle Kiev, secure everything first, and then after do it. And there, the hacking community, the RBN network actually came to the fore, used their old strategies of IRC and those chat channels to actually reactivate them, collected all of them together, and did this entire operation. What is the takeaway from this is that The resources and information battlefield are something which we have always been wary of. We have taken them on side and said that, okay, don't talk to hackers, they are bad guys. But let me tell you, they are foot soldiers. And they are the one who are going to actually give you information. So you have to cultivate them. And you, as a country, you have the largest number of hackers in the world. So it's all on you. They are a little scared of a uniform, but and also of your discipline and timing, because hackers don't respect discipline. They love to work in their silos. They start their work from 10 when you go to sleep, and they wake up in the morning at 2 when you are going off from office. So whenever, like, defense cyber agency had been deploying on contract such kind of thing, but they have not been able to retain it because of this reason. So thank you very much. I'll be open to questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Alok. We'll take the questions towards the end of the session. And Alok essentially gave you certain aspects of information warfare which are rarely known to people. But as I had said in my opening remark also, that Grey Zone is all about being street smart. And that was exactly what Alok tried to bring out, that in case if your computer is infected, don't treat it as though it's a untouchable thing and, throw it into the garbage or do some forensics, fix that officer. I would, officer or a man, I would rather go a step forward and make him a double agent. Use that particular machine along with that particular individual. You see, he's part of our country, so he can always be turned around. So I think that is the idea of being street smart, and that's what he spoke about. Smart way to actually go ahead with information warfare, defense against information warfare. I would also like to add here a word of caution. While Alok gave us a little bit of euphoria about, not everything is hunky dory as far as Dragon is concerned, but we must never underestimate our adversary also. So we need to be careful and watchful of what is happening around us in this particular domain of Grey Zone warfare. With that, we will move on to our next panelist, General Manjeet. Manjeet, over to you. The floor is yours.
You all hear me towards the end? Loud and clear? Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, for introducing the subject in a very lucid manner, and also my co-panelist, who has really set the stage, given the practical aspects and the hands-on aspects of every bit of the information operations. And before I move on, I would like to thank the co-commander and his entire team for inviting us to speak on a very important subject such as cyberspace in its different manifestations. Cyberspace has occupied a very prime space in our lives today. Everything you do today, whether you transact or you're living cyberspace every single day, and therefore the kind of it occupies a very prominent space in our lives today, be it normal citizens or the businesses or the organizations or the governments. It's a thing which is so very prime, and since it facilitates the society globally, it also becomes a place or a battle space where there's a lot of jostling which happens, and that leads to a large number of threats in the cyberspace. So with that as a little background, I'll move on to the subject proper. I'm aware that I'm speaking to the senior military leadership, but at the same time, I'm also aware that we have a large number of young officers in the crowd, and therefore, I would like to keep it to a lot of basics as far as the subject is concerned. and in about 30 minutes, you can't do justice to a very vast issue which impacts us every single day, every opportunity, and therefore I can only initiate you to certain issues which are so very important, and therefore you could probably read up more and more on that. A lot of it is available in the open source, as also we could later also plan some kind of a closed group roundtables or workshops to really get into it. But as military leaders and staff, we need to be really aware of this dimension of warfare, which is in the continuum of conflict, moves from a very low intensity, low escalation to a very high intensity kind of a warfare, and therefore we need to be at it. So before we go on to further, I thought it's important that we understand some basics, and to do that, in fact, the cyberspace is all about connectedness. And when we talk about information space, it is the information is the centrality. Now that occupies the central space, and everything revolves around the information. That is where the information space, information operations, or information security would go into. And the cyber space would more go into the connectedness. But initially, we had when we had normal communication, it was a people to people connect, and then as we went along, it became people to machine or people to things. And today we have things to things talking to each other. That is the Internet of Things, the military Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things. So that is how the whole cyberspace has evolved from people to people to people to things to things today. So everything which is connected forms part of a larger cyberspace, and that's what and therefore it occupies the rest of the dimensions. If we talk about land, air, space, or maritime, it occupies all other spaces, and therefore truly it has come to be recognized as the fifth dimension of warfare, as we all understand. Talking about the cyber security and cyber resilience, since the topic is about cyber resilience, I thought it's better to distinguish what is cyber security and what is cyber resilience. And so, cyber security is, if you look at the scope, time, and the outcome, the cyber security would go into the prevention or the defense as such. And prevention of breaches is where the cyber security would lie. And if we talk about the cyber resilience, it's more to do with the operational continuity, the continuity of the business. Also, an ability to withstand an attack, respond, recover, evolve is all about cyber resilience. So, in terms of the time horizon, the cyber security looks at the present time, whereas the cyber resilience would look at the present and the future, wherein you would be able to respond, recover, evolve, and get back to shape in order to maintain that kind of a business continuity. So, therefore, in essence, the cyber resilience is a strategic thought, a strategic concept, and cyber security becomes the subset of cyber resilience. So, I thought we should be clear about that. Another issue is the data. Data is the fuel. Data is the bloodline of the cyberspace, and therefore data has to be preserved. Data has to be protected, and data today has become the national asset. Some people call it the data as a new oil, data as gold. So data truly is your prime asset, because everything moves around data. Any loss of data can lead to loss of reputation, the loss of lives, the subversion, the manipulation, the sabotage. The information operations are based on data, and therefore data when you look at data, you need to look at the data privacy, the data security. And therefore, this is your prime asset. And everything should revolve around data, because that's where the whole fight lies about. So I thought it must be clear to us. And the since we are talking about the gray zone warfare, the red lines and thresholds, what is the enemy trying to do? He is keeping it below the threshold, below your red lines, and therefore carrying out things which solves its political and military objectives, keeping the things below the threshold, and therefore not escalating it, at the same time achieving so much. It can impact your socio-economic well-being, it can impact your national security, it can lead to a lot of debilitating impact on your public health, public safety, economy, national security, everywhere. But as military commanders, as those responsible for protection of this kind of a thing, we need to set our own red lines and thresholds. Enough is enough. At one point of time, you need to clearly lay down your own thresholds and own red lines. That is where the jostling will take place. Another important aspect, though not listed on the slide, is when we talk about the cyberspace, the cyber resilience or cyber security, always at the back of our mind should be, where is the vulnerability? The vulnerability is in the PPT, the people, process, technology. That should be at the back of your mind. What are we looking at? And the second is, what are we trying to protect? The CIA, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of what? Data, of your networks. If those have to be available, those have to be kept confidential, those have to be, they cannot be manipulated. So those are another two areas which should be looked at when you are dealing with a subject such as cyberspace. Now, where does the cyber domain fits into the gray zone warfare? There are a whole lot of activities which takes in the gray zone warfare, as the chairman has brought out very beautifully in the beginning, that cyber today occupies a prime space in the gray zone warfare, as also the information operations and information warfare. This one, it affects all sectors. Unlike the conventional engagement, where you have clear-cut lines, and it affects your every facet of life, every sector, and every component in your life can be directly attacked. Every citizen, every business, every organization, every enterprise, every government, central, state, everyone can be attacked. So it's important that everyone is able to defend itself. Every component should be able to defend itself. However, is everyone free to counterattack? That's the question which we need to really consider. I am also sitting on a laptop. If I am attacked or if I am ransomed, do I start to use the tools available freely to start counterattacking? Is that the norm? Then you get into the international norms and responsible state behavior and things like that. In the cyberspace, as you're aware, there are not very many binding norms, and there are not very many binding treaties and conventions. And therefore, this is something we should also be at the back of our mind. Everyone today is a soldier. Do we organize them or keep them loose-ended? So that is where there is a distinction between the conventional engagements and the engagements in the cyberspace. And brought out earlier also, the cyberspace is borderless. You can maintain anonymity, or you can deny, because the way the hacker operates is he hops from place A to B to C. He goes into the surface web, goes into the dark web, again jumps to the surface web, uses VPN, VPS infrastructure, uses the cloud in your own country and across the globe. The victim is somewhere else, the attacker is somewhere else, the infrastructure he uses is somewhere else. So that's how it's so formless, so borderless. It's truly a global space, and non-attributability, attribution is pretty difficult, whether it is technical attribution, factual attribution, contextual attribution, political attribution. Everything goes into this, and there are a whole lot of geopolitics which goes around attribution. Do we attribute? When do we attribute? Do we become a party to some of the like-minded countries to attribute? Are there any compulsions? Do we have a land border with any particular adversary? Can we really go for an open attribution and public naming and shaming? Is a question mark which we need to really deliberate as commanders. And it's a fairly ambiguous area. Another important issue is the cognitive domain. What's the target? A lot of it has been covered by the previous speaker. He's covered the information operations, the manipulations, the subversions, but this is the major component of targeting, your mind. And this is done by adversaries. It can also be done by the insiders or the disgruntled employees. And therefore, you have to be really at it. Now, this is a typical area where the cyber defense can be outsourced, because it affects everyone. It affects your citizen, it affects your private sector. Also, the solutions are available with the private sector. There is some intelligence available with the government. There may be some intelligence available with the private sector. The private sector also is producing so much of threat intel, and therefore this particular area can be outsourced through the model of PPP. Lots of examples are there wherein a lot of cyber defense and even offense has been outsourced, especially aiding to, as we go along, I'll cover that as well with certain examples, that the private sector is very much into this kind of a warfare. The public sector support in terms of providing products and solutions has also a lot of threat intel. And as defense cyber organizations, we need to understand, therefore, a whole of nation approach to address the cyber operations. We need to be aware of the complete society, the rest of the government infrastructure, the agencies, the law enforcement agencies, everyone. So it has to be a whole of nation approach, and therefore we need to understand each bit of it. As we go along, we'll cover more about it. Now, what is China doing? China's multi-pronged approach in cyberspace. It's doing everything to set up its own cyberspace, as also fight in the cyberspace, have domination in the cyberspace, and that happens right from a very low end of the conflict spectrum, goes into the higher one, right from the peacetime to no war, no peace. So it's through and through. It is happening even today. And therefore, China has done a lot of organizational restructuring. Part of it I'll cover. Since 2015, they have really done a lot of changes to their structures. There is a civilian side of structures, and then there is a military side of these structures, which we'll talk in one or two slides later. It has laid down policies and strategies to make sure that they have a very secure cyberspace for themselves. It is well regulated. The content is well regulated. What goes in comes in, and what goes out is also fairly well regulated through these strategies. A number of legislations and regulations. The legislations have been designed in a manner which are let's say talk about the national intelligence law, or its cybersecurity law, or it is a data security law. Each of that needs every citizen to cooperate with the security agencies. Even the organizations, the private companies are also supposed to cooperate and also share a lot of threat intel. They are also expected to share a lot of data, not only about themselves, about their businesses, about their clients across the globe. And therefore, a lot of feedback gets back into the system. So that's the kind of regulation and legislation they've come up with. They've also gone into the investment ventures. As one always thinks as to how do investment ventures get into this kind of cyberspace, because with these kind of investments, you can have a deep penetration into your technological space as also digital space. So it's a virtual way of getting into the online system of the adversary. So the investments into the startup ecosystem, the funding of various companies, the companies operating, all that. And therefore, once you do this kind of a funding, obviously there's a whole lot of data which flows in terms of telemetry or otherwise. And therefore, this also impacts in some manner the cyberspace. Funding of universities, that's a soft power. With that, what you bring in a lot of IPR. And with the IPR, you get a technological edge. And you therefore dominate in the technological space as also in a digital space. And then you go on to scale to produce that. And once you go and produce it in scale, that gets marketed. Now you have presence across the globe. And that's how the funding of universities, the students, the establishment of people to people links get established. At the same time, sponsoring your own students in the universities across the globe, the feedback mechanism, the getting the IPR, getting the results of the R&D happening in various universities, getting back into your system. It's a very methodical manner to get into the technological and digital space. A lot of universities have been linked to the defense research. That's a industry academia collaboration. Anyone will do it. And a lot of universities work into the niche skills. And they also have a very strong linkages with the PLA as also the CCP, wherein a lot of technology get exchanged, the products and solutions get work into. The United Front Work Department is a civilian agency which looks at propagating the CCP thought. It looks at the kind of propaganda. It also carries out influence operations with the influencing the minds of the leaders and the global elite, and has its own well spread out network through which the UFWD operates. In terms of the civil military fusion also takes place through the UFWD. Now BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, is while it happens in the physical dimension in terms of the infrastructure development of roads, ports, and the like, there's a BRI through the Silk Road, the digital Silk Road. So there is a BRI which happens in the virtual space, and where the BRI has been signed, it's a large number of countries, 130 odd countries have already signed up for BRI. And so therefore look at the presence virtually in the virtual space or in the digital Silk Road space, the kind of presence. At one point in time, China was also talking of the new internet protocol. It was it felt that the present internet has monopoly, and therefore it was talking of the new IP or the new internet protocol. And how does that confidence arises? That once you have the presence through the digital Silk Road, you also are fairly convinced that people would follow the new internet protocol, though that would lead to splinternet and issues that did not really take off well. But at one point in time, that was also thought of. Global initiative on the data security is another initiative which came as a counter to the clean network by the US side. The clean network was looking at the provision of solutions only from the trusted sources, only from the trusted partners, and the vendors, and having a clean path, clean network. So this was a counter to that, wherein it came out with it took a lead, and it said that they are taking a lead in data security, but on ground it really does not practice what was being preached through the GIDS. The China Standard 2035 is also an extension of Made in China 2025, wherein again the effort is to have their own IPR, take a lead in standard setting. And once you take a lead in this standard setting, it leads to manufacturing. It leads to your own manufacturing ecosystem and at scale. And therefore, you are able to send it across to the globe, various kind of products and solutions. And that is where the dominance in the digital space, it will lead to dominance in the digital space. Now, those are some of the methods which China has taken to really get into the digital space across the globe. Specifically, the cyber actors, more of it has been talked about, that we have the civilian side, wherein the cyber administration of China is the lead, which looks at the policy issues. It also looks at the content part. It also looks at what data can go outside China. It also prescribes the network elements and network security elements. So that is where the cyber administration of China is disposed at. It has got 9 offices looking into each stream, and then it has got 31 provincial offices which look into every province. So that is where the civilian side of cyberspace looks at. And apart from that, we have the Ministry of State Security and Ministry of Public Security, with the tasking as you can see listed there. Tracking of countering of the political threats, be it foreign and domestic, and maintaining CCP supremacy. The MPS looks at the digital censorship. It also looks at the provisioning of the skilled manpower, and the Golden Shield project is also looked at by the MPS. The Great Firewall is regulated by the Cyber Administration of China. And onto the PLA side, the PLA has also gone through a transformation in terms of its. Initially, we had the third PLA and the fourth PLA, the third and fourth department carrying out cyber, psychological, and electronic warfare. All that has gone into transformation. It went into SSF in 2015, wherein we had the NSD, that is the Network System Department, which was looking at the defensive and offensive side of the cyber operations. However, it has now further gone into another set of transformation. And what is the latest reformed PLA service structure is, as you can see on a slide. So there are 4 PLA services, and there are 4 PLA support forces. And the lower ones are where we are discussing at the moment. We have a full the SSD, which was earlier SSD, Space System Department, is transformed into the Aerospace Force, which looks at the space operations. The Cyberspace Force, which looks at the information operations, and now we have the latest announced very recently was the Information Support Force, which looks at the network information operations. And then you have the joint logistics. So the cyber attack and the signal intelligence, electronic warfare, psychological warfare, all that happens in the cyberspace force. So this is the force which is looking at it. Now, what are the manifestations of the Chinese activity? Some of them, not all. So there is a effort, as I said, data is so very important, and there is a constant effort of data collection through mobile apps. So you're well aware of the ecosystem of the applications, the ecosystem of the Chinese devices, and through that the apps which were Chinese were collecting 45% more data than the normal app. So in India, we've taken certain steps. We have in fact banned a large number of apps, say about 350 odd apps have been banned, but they keep appearing in the ecosystem through various means, through the use of VPNs. However, there is a full mechanism which is being looked at. Then there are many big tech companies which support the Chinese establishment as far as the data collection is concerned. In 2020, you would recall there was a full report which was published in the newspapers, which was about the Zenwa Data Information Technology Company, which was collecting data from across the globe. It had 20 centers, about 150 odd servers, collecting the data about every possible leader, be it the leadership, the bureaucrats, the CEOs of the companies, even the data about those who are evading tax, the tax evasion, the tax havens, the criminals. All kind of data was being collected, and when you look at that data, it appeared that there were military minds behind the analysis of that kind of data. So this is where that private companies supporting your work comes in. So this was one example. In the recent past, we've seen the iSoon case, which again was a huge amount of data was getting collected. It was put into the data lakes and then analyzed for varied purposes. And once you get into the data, you can do all that which I covered in the beginning. The choice of targets is again based on your political and military objectives or the strategic objectives, and the choice of targets are very carefully done as far as victims are concerned. Sustained compromise of government communications, whether it's email infrastructure, there is a constant endeavor to target the email infrastructure, which gives out a huge amount of data and huge amount of the intent, and also the complete work profile of any organization. This is something very, very critical. Massive espionage campaigns, be it the collection of the IP data, or it is the collection of data which is available through the social media, the data available through the apps and devices, and through that there are massive espionage campaigns which are launched. Another important thing is when you go through the gray zone warfare, you also do a lot of pre-positioning, and that is where the whole criticality lies, because this gray zone warfare will graduate into a full-scale warfare, and this is the time a lot of pre-positioning is done into the critical sector entities, and that is something which one has to really guard against. Looking at some of the counter components of a strategy for cyber resilience, as any country would look at, there are 7 areas which you need to look to build your adequate cyber resilience in your cyberspace. The first is the policy framework, the organizational framework, the legislative framework, the operational framework, your international collaboration, education awareness, skill building, and capacity and capability buildings. So just to give you a glimpse, since we are all military people, we need to understand what is being done and what we need to do further. And we already have, in terms of the policy framework, we already have a policy in place. However, we are now looking at a strategy, because strategy is more action oriented. The drafting has been done, the formulation of this strategy has been done. We are also looking at national data governance framework and a national cyber reference framework, which will look at every baseline security requirements of our critical sectors. As far as the organizations are concerned, a number of organizations have been raised. If you, whether it is CERTIN or the National Critical Infrastructure Protection Center, and for addressing the cybercrime, we have the I4C, Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. All that is, there are a whole lot of organizations which have mushroomed to look at every facet of cyberspace, but we need now to consolidate, integrate, bit of restructuring, revitalizing these organizations to probably go into having a national cybersecurity authority or agency is something that is we need to look at. In terms of the legislative framework, we've taken lead. The IT Act is in place, takes care of a number of issues, and we also have in last year promulgated the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. And Digital India Act is something which is being looked at. It's being under formulation, and similar is the case for the Cyber Security Act. So that's as far as this is concerned. The operationally, we have the cyber defense and cyber deterrence in place, and we now really need to look at a assured defense posture. I have a slide on that. I'll cover it quickly. Because of the time, I'll have to hurry it up. In terms of the international collaboration, any country would do that. We have CERT to CERT cooperation, a lot of MOUs, the cyber dialogue, cyber drills and exercises are being done. And at the same time, we need to really build on our capacities, build our neighbors, and Indian Ocean region is where we need to strengthen the cyber resilience in partnership with those nations. In terms of the education, there are info security education awareness program. We also conduct cyber security drills and exercises. And what we are now looking is at Indian certifications. So that is something a work in progress. And we also need to really carry out massive awareness campaigns, especially to look at the gray zone part of it. A lot of cyber crime, a lot of cyber hacktivism, a lot of graduating down up to the cyber terrorism, and that is where we need to really look at massive awareness campaigns. And in terms of the capacity buildings, we have undertaken a lot of work to harmonize the R&D efforts and Make in India push. And we also now are looking at encouraging our startup ecosystem, building public-private partnership to look at each of those aspects, creating certain specific centers of excellence, and states and sectoral capacities also need to be built, and in order to be resilient. I just wanted to give a concept on assured defense posture, and that is where we need to graduate from our cyber defense and cyber deterrence. This is a concept wherein you undertake a continuous and relentless efforts. And if you look at the diagram carefully, on the x-axis is the time, and on the y-axis is the security posture. That can also be taken as a serviceability. So while the jostling is happening, it is the till the time incident takes place, that's called the point of incidence. And before the incident can take place, that is where your all proactive and preemptive measures should kick in. That is to do with the threat hunting. That is to do with carrying out a lot of capacity building, carrying out your crisis management plans, practicing a lot of preemptive actions take place in that. So while the adversary would push you down in terms of the security posture or serviceability, your aim is to push it up so that you remain at 100%. Now, once the incident has taken place, then it is you look at the point of detection. Now, that is where the whole criticality lies. Because between the point of incident and detection also is a long time. You don't even come to know that this is happening. That is where any adversary would maintain persistence.
Manjeet, try to conclude.
Yes, quickly, sir, I'll do it, sir. And this is the time when, with a lot of sound threat intelligence, you can really reduce this time. And once you have detected, and then it is time for responding and taking it to a desirable recovery level, taking it, because by that time your security posture would degrade to quite an extent, and therefore you take it to a desirable recovery through recovery actions. And if you're able to reach 100%, then it's fine. But in case the adversary presses it even further down, you would have to lay down your threshold wherein you could even respond in a cross-domain response. So that is the whole concept in nutshell. Is it requires more time actually to get into the concept as such. Now, some of the recommendations for cyber resilience, these are all basics wherein you need to look at the baseline standards and practices, escalate cybersecurity to the board priorities. Board priorities in the sense every people should recognize that you require cyber resilience in your infrastructure and need to allocate resources in terms of budgets and HR. We need to have cybersecurity teams headed by the competent CISOs, create a separate budget head now for the cybersecurity and cyber resilience, encourage a lot of research and encourage the startups, skilling in the emerging technologies, be it AI, quantum, big data, IoTs, all that we need to look at. Develop cybersecurity products and own ecosystem, formulate policy of secure by design, continuously analyze and update information regarding threat actors and their tools, tactics, and procedures. Monitor suppliers and OEMs from the trust point of view, and we need to also have a comprehensive legal framework for our cybersecurity or the CII protection. So those were some of the thoughts. In case of any questions, we'll take it on at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Manjeet. I think we are grossly over time, and we have a very limited time frame available as far as the question answer session goes. So that makes my task a little easier. I will wrap it up a little faster, because in any case a lot of issues have been covered. The big takeaways as far as Manjeet's talk was concerned is about the battle space. I think the battle space is getting redefined. It's no more the space which we had conjured up earlier. The battle space is going into larger dimensions, and cyber is one aspect which is actually driving this battle space, and it is becoming no more a preserve of the military. It is a battle space is now being dictated by civilians as well. So it is a right case for a civil military fusion as far as dealing with cybersecurity is concerned. Data assumes great importance if we are to actually develop a strong cyber defense. And lastly, the impact of cyber war. I think it is huge and devastating. I shall cover that in my talk briefly as we go along. With that, thank you, Manjeet. I'll take my session. We will try to extend the session by about 15 minutes so that we can have some question answers. I'll try to wrap it up within 15 minutes. I had a lot to speak, but I think my panelists have already done the job for me. So what I'll do is, as I go along in my presentation, I'll try to skip the issues which have already been covered. At the outset, all of you must have remembered or would remember when we talk of gray zone, October 2020. In October 2020, the entire Mumbai came to a grinding halt. The metros came to a grinding halt. Mumbai was thrown into darkness for almost 48 hours. Its 500 crore island based electricity load distribution system went to a halt. And this is not important. What I'm trying to get at is that after this incident happened, the voices which came out from within our country were different from different quarters. The state government attributed it to international sabotage. The others who were part of this particular discourse said it was a technical fault. What I'm trying to get at is gray zone is that activity which throws a doubt in the mind of the person being or the entity being targeted, and that is where non-attributability factor comes in, and gray zone has been evolved over a period of time to ensure that it cannot be pointed back to a particular person or particular entity which has launched that particular gray zone activity. With that brief introduction, let me just cover that. I'll be basically covering the entire talk on in these three parts: scan of Chinese gray zone tactics against India, which my two panelists have almost done it. So what I will do is I'll highlight the ones which they have not covered, and rest we will skip. The next one is challenges, and finally some kind of a strategy for defense against gray zone war, not necessarily only information and cyber, but overall as a country how we should view gray zone operations. So with that, let me go to my scan. This is a kaleidoscope of what gray zone means. It has dual infrastructure projects close to the line of actual control, territorial claims in the disputed and undisputed areas, cyber attacks, information warfare. We have labored a lot on this issue. Influence government regime changes in India's neighborhood, support to anti-India terror insurgent groups, including the use of veto power in the United Nations. This is just a kind of a brief overview. What I want to highlight in this particular issue is one factor. If you recollect, in on March 28 this year itself, China celebrated the 65th anniversary of Tibet's liberation from earlier feudal serfdom. So Dalai Lama has now been referred to as a feudal lord. And these were the exact words. They also termed it as a democratic reform day. And over and above that, what they did was they celebrated in their so-called Ziakong villages, which is on the Indo-Tibet and Indo-Bhutan border, Bhutan-Tibet borders. Basically, they projected it as a positive development meant for civilian eyes, but actually it was meant for India as a gray zone activity in terms of legalizing the border villages, which are now part of their strategy. Of course, we have developed a counter strategy of vibrant villages. They have already, in fact, invested heavily in 628 border villages as far as China is concerned, all along our northern front, which is starting from Ladakh down up to Arunachal Pradesh. But more importantly, what should be our counter strategy? And that is something on which we are undertaking a lot of action. MHA is working on its own. MOD is also doing some kind of actions on this. We'll cover it when I cover the defense against the against gray zone activities are concerned. So with that, I'll come on to the next issue. What is the concept of the Chinese gray zone war? I'm deliberately not going into the other details about cyber, etc. All those you have heard from the two speakers. As far as the concept is concerned, even here, Manjeet actually brought out the concept broadly. But what I would like to emphasize here is the primary role of the CCP. It is the CCP which drives the gray zone warfare, and the instrument which is available with them, which Manjeet spoke about, was United Front Works Department, which lays out the policy, and thereafter it is implemented by the state through Ministry of State Security, Ministry of Public Security, etc. And at the PLA level also you have the base 311 unit. So all these, at the PLA level you have the Information Support Force, which is the offshoot of the earlier PLA SSF, SSF, which was a service. Now that has been split into three. There are reasons why it was split into three separate forces rather than having it as an integrated entity under the PLA SSF. There is probably some lesson for us also, that integration, there are two aspects to it. One is, if you look at it militarily, did integration work as far as the Chinese were concerned? Second is, was there any other motive for splitting them? That PLA SSF was probably getting too big for its boots, so therefore Xi Jinping decided to split reduce the status of the PLA SSF commander. These are issues which we need to discuss in house and come to a conclusion. My take on this is that it was more driven by the Xi Jinping's apprehensions of the importance which is now as far as the cyber and information war are concerned, and therefore he wanted it to be directly under the CMC. That's my take. You all can have a different view about it. As far as the instruments of, as far as the policy is concerned, they follow the three warfare strategy and unrestricted warfare strategy. A word out here which I would like to tell you all is that no country has actually any gray zone policy, right? And rightly so, because you can't be, then the whole idea of non-attributability gets defeated. So therefore the policy has to be existing in some form or the other. It's only the United States of America which has stated in their national security document of 1945, which states that United States of America or NATO can take covert operations for establishing international peace. This is the way they have couched their covert activities. And just to highlight to you that during the Cold War 1.0, they had almost done 115 regime changes as part of this strategy of theirs, some through elections, some through covert means, and some through overt interventions as well. So this kind of a policy only exists in some kind of a twisted form as far as the United States is concerned. The others keep it under the wrap. But what the Chinese, in my view, have done is that the PLA actually commissioned this three warfare strategy, and after that, this is being kind of implemented through that particular document. As far as the unrestricted warfare is concerned, as you all are aware, it was written by two colonels. But the way the activities are being conducted by the Dragon, as far as gray zone warfare is concerned, I think they are more or less following, or they are adhering to this particular document. Coming on to implementation agencies, this has already been spoken about enough, so I will not talk about it anymore. Let me go to the scan of Chinese footprints in the India's neighborhood. I have started talking about gray zone as no more a single two-front activity as far as India is concerned. As far as gray zone is concerned, I am of the view that it has become a seamless single front, starting from Pakistan down to China and also our neighbors. You look at the way our neighbors have been targeted, whether it was Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, and Bangladesh. We are now living in a bad neighborhood. That's the way I look at it, and more or less, I would attribute 70 to 80% for this kind of a development to our northern neighbor. So we need to be careful, and we need to actually devise methods as to get this story back in our favor. We are improving as far as Maldives is concerned, but we need to do more about about our immediate neighbor as far as the northern front is concerned. Okay, manifestation of border law. This was something which I thought we need to dwell a little more. This has not been covered by the other speakers. Basically, the idea was to strengthen China's border defense and management, including maritime domain. So I say that 10-dash line or 11-dash line could be attributed to this now border law, which has been instituted by the Chinese. It also aims to protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity. That's the stated view. But in my opinion, I think the LAC is being slowly orchestrated in a manner through the border villages, well-off border villages, etc. initiative to stake their claim as the firm line. Wherever they are inside, they will take that as possibly the current line, and also they'll continue to intrude through their salami slicing policy and redefine this entire front as far as northern borders are concerned. Overtly, they have said it is meant for border management, but covertly, I feel it is more to legalize. The legal framework is more important as far as this particular initiative of the Dragon is concerned. Demarcation has been given as part of the part of the law, which means that currently, as all of you are aware, LAC is non-demarcated. So somewhere there is a long-term game being played by the dragon, and we need to be cognizant of it. We need to be watching this particular development in this particular area quite closely. Then coming on to the this is another area which today we didn't speak about, and that's about neurostrike. This is something which the Chinese are doing a lot of research on, and they are trying to actually hint at. They are actually trying to do a research on attacking the brain through bioengineering, through AI, and through neuroscience in the military domain. So the aim is either to degrade your performance. That is as far as the adversary is concerned, or to upgrade their human resource performance. Both ways, it could work both ways. So one will have to now start looking at this particular factor very seriously, even as far as India is concerned. I am not aware exactly what is happening as far as we are concerned in this particular domain, but we need to now start taking a close watch on this kind of a development of attacking the minds through science and technology. Cognitive domain is fine, but this is now getting the science into this particular form of warfare, which needs to be considered. The end game being mind dominance. Okay. A word about layered securities. In simple words, layered security means exercising tight control over the people of Tibet and Xinjiang through military presence, through surveillance and monitoring, cultural and social control, legal measures, economic incentives and development, political control, community surveillance and informants. I have some incidents where they have been trying to do this kind of an activity, which I shall flash to you. This is about the red flags. Now, as far as red flags are concerned, there are many, but I will highlight to you the Siliguri corridor and why so. Because Siliguri corridor is not only applicable to 33 Corps, but it is applicable to the entire Eastern Theatre. So that's the area which I refer to it as a conundrum of activities which are taking place on a 24/7 basis, but without coming in the open. When I was a BGS 33 Corps and I took over this responsibility of analyzing the Siliguri corridor, it was not being done in the past. I picked up two issues only: FICN and drugs. The data which we had in our possession till then of FICN was about a 1 crore annual seizure of data in the Siliguri corridor. Within a span of 1 year of my tenure, when we started compiling each and every information which was coming out in the open source, I'm not talking about some kind of a covert information or something like that. Open source information through the police network. You will not believe it, the figures were around 10 to 11 crores. So that was the real FICN which was flowing through this, and I'm not talking of the illegal weapon market which flourishes in this area. People from Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, these people come here, buy weapons, coming all the way from the Chinese illegal market, which is there beyond Myanmar. So this particular area, given the Chinese interest, is a place to focus upon for the entire security of the Eastern Theatre. Human trafficking goes on, narcotics and drugs, smuggling, R&R. This is another interesting factor which I noticed, that why I was quite amused as to why there is no violence in the Siliguri corridor as far as terrorists are concerned. And to my disbelief, when I interacted with the people there, they said, "Sir, it's an R&R place. People come to this particular corridor, do their business of money, weapons, drugs, etc., and go back. As also they have families. So a particular say insurgent of the Nagaland or Manipur or that area group comes here essentially to arrest. That is another area which we need to be careful of, and a new trend has emerged now. That trend is how should these groups be funded? So now they have started targeting the tea estates. There are some evidence where tea estates are now being funded through the Chinese sources. Scan of some events as far as Eastern theater is concerned. You see the photograph of this boy. This boy was a hunter, and all of you are aware what is the role of hunter played as far as we are concerned. He crossed over inadvertently or advertently. We don't know. He was brainwashed and brought back or sent back to India with a mindset of going on the media praising what was happening in China. So they have used your resource to subvert him, send him back, and he becomes your kind of a antithesis as far as this particular region was concerned. He became very popular. Similarly, there are other incidents. They have even also made inroads into your parliamentary system. The BJP MP statements were at cross purposes with the overall national security intention, and therefore army had to deny what he was trying to claim. So we need to be careful of these kind of actions which are taking place, and also Dalai Lama's influence is being targeted in the form of limiting his influence as far as this region is concerned, and that is why I had quoted that incident of he being referred to as a feudal lord, and the fact that Tibet has become democratic after Dalai Lama has left. These are the stories and narratives which we need to be cognizant of. Panchen Lama's case, the nominated Panchen Lama of by Dalai Lama is missing since 1995. So there is a concerted effort by the Chinese also to limit the influence of Dalai Lama in this particular part. So cyber threat I will not cover. I would only highlight to you one figure. In 2023, there were 5 billion attacks on India. After Taiwan, India is the second country which has the maximum number of cyber attacks by our friend in the north. This, all of you should be careful. Your stock exchange get attacked almost every day, with thousands and thousands of attacks taking place. If we don't have the right kind of security, you can imagine what can happen. Our economy could go into a topsy turvy. Our transportation systems have been penetrated. Our port infrastructures have been penetrated. Our electricity distribution centers have been penetrated through cyber. So cyber is a big thing which is happening, and we need to be careful of this. The rest of the detail I'll not cover. Cartographic warfare, I think this is an issue which most of you are aware of. So therefore, we will gloss over this. Suffice it to say that we are reactive. That's my observation. If they name certain places in the Chinese language, we respond by renaming 30-40 places. We have also issued instructions. We also issue certain maps. But we need to become proactive. We need to become more, I would say, offensive in nature. What Alok was trying to say, we need those black strategists. That's my point. We always focus on the high ground. I think we need to also focus on the low ground strategies also. If we have to survive in the gray zone war, we have to be street smart. This is one lesson which is coming out, on and on, both from Alok as well as Jalmanjeet spoke about it. We cannot survive gray zone the way it is being played around us. OpenAI stalled during our elections. You'll be surprised, during our elections, we had two concerted efforts made by our friends to disrupt the election, to change the narrative, to change the results. Suffice it to say that you are probably even this conference is being monitored very closely by our friends. So be careful of that. So in summary, just to repeat, border skirmishes will continue to go on. Military posturing and exercises will continue. Environmental and infrastructure challenges will be there. Localized economic and social strategies would be executed. Development differential will be highlighted in all their narratives. Local and political social influence would be targeted as far as support to insurgent groups are concerned. Cyber attacks, economic pressures and trade manipulations, information warfare and propaganda, diplomatic and political pressures, psychological operations. These are the things which are going to be the landscape of gray zone warfare manifestation as far as India is concerned. Own challenges. Absence of a policy guideline for a proactive gray zone strategy with civil military fusion. Why I say so? We have made policies for cyber, we have made policies for information, IT, etc., etc. But have we looked at gray zone as a holistic, whole of a nation approach? I don't think that has still come into the fore. So therefore, there is a need to look at this entire gray zone as one landscape and create a policy which can then become a document for further guidance for the various agencies. It is not to say that nothing is happening. If you look at our various agencies, IB, RNO, RAW, NTRO, CERT, NCI, IPC, NEST, Cyber Diplomacy, MEA, DCA, everybody is doing some work or the other in a sectionized manner. And here I would like to highlight the story of Alok. Is the elephant which is at work, but elephant is being viewed from the tail, from the trunk, from the leg or from the body. It is not being viewed whole as an elephant. This is actually an old picture of a management session which go on if you are doing MBA. And the first thing which they say, which they show in that in any MBA program, is this picture of elephant being viewed sectionally by people, and the guy who sees what he sees conjures up a full picture. If I'm catching the tail, I feel it's a rope, right? But he doesn't know that it is the rope of is the tail of a elephant. That I think is the problem as far as gray zone war is concerned. And thanks, Alok, for having actually strengthened my view on this particular issue. There's a lack of overarching structure more at the apex level for synergizing the efforts. So that is the final observation which I have as far as our challenges are concerned. I'm not highlighting the other challenges. Those were the ones which I felt are critical. Unless we address them, we are not going to approach gray zone in a very focused manner. Complexity of multi-domain operations, cyber security, again, information warfare, everywhere. I would like to highlight only two things in this particular slide. One is about the internal security. In fact, what happens is that most of our efforts are defeated due to our internal dissonance. In my opinion, gray zone or any matters related to national military security or national security, more so the national military security and internal security, should be politically agnostic. The problem comes when the politics gets into our security architecture, and I'm being very frank about it, that undermines half the effort which we are undertaking. With that, I move on to the last bit. What are the some actions which we have taken? This, I think all of you are aware. These are the actions which Eastern Command or in the Eastern Theater we have taken to actually beat back the Chinese efforts in gray zone war. I would also like to add here that the Indian Army is also taking certain actions to promote this particular perception, and we are undertaking border area tourism in a big way, with the army being a major facilitator. I think that will increase our footprints as far as the line of actual control is concerned, where the more you are there, more it is yours. That's the whole idea of this particular effort. We are going to conduct, the clause itself is going to conduct this particular seminar next year, next month in September. I think September 10th is the date. So we are going to have Minister of RM is going to be there, Minister of Tourism is going to be there, and the CM of Arunachal Pradesh is also going to be there. So therefore, we are taking action, but again, these are initiatives which are being taken, let's say, at mine or at the level of the army headquarters. We need to have a very focused policy as far as gray zone is concerned. With that. This is my last slide, so that we finish off a little early. Conceptually, I feel the concepts exist in our country. If you look at Kautilya, he spoke about Sam, Dam, Dand, Ved. Overall, you can group it under Maya. Maya means, something which people crave for. So these are the elements which are supposed to be there in any gray zone policy, which also again goes back to the fact that you got to be street smart. Civil military fusion and all of a nation approach must become one of the major pillars which everyone has spoken about. Multinational alliances with nations and organizations to beat the asymmetry which we have. And here I would like to add another aspect is that, it's my assessment that both China as well as India are looking at the centennial goal. And centennial goal is to become a developed nation as far as India is concerned, to become a developed nation by 2047. As far as China is concerned, it wants to become, I would say, superpower by 2049. So both are not keen on a drag as far as their economy is concerned. But both are in a situation where there could be a incident of, or there could be a conflict. Our whole idea should be to avoid that conflict as far as national security is concerned, and for that the best tool available to you is gray zone. Remain in the gray zone, dissuade somebody from taking any action which is going to lead to a conflict, a large scale conflict, because that will drag the country at least by 5 to 10 years as far as open war is concerned, or as far as conventional war is concerned. But that does not mean that we are not likely to have any conflicts on the local level conflicts as far as borders are concerned. Finally, I also feel that as far as information warfare is concerned, others, since they didn't highlight, I thought let me talk about it. Tibet needs to become one of the major narratives, and toward this end, I had written a Manekshaw paper along with Major General Chaturvedi. It is being well received, so all of you can subscribe to this particular Manekshaw paper. It's about 10,000 words, a very thin booklet. It gives out in detail the connect between India and Tibet, which we can build into our narratives in the future, so that we re-energize our Indo-Tibet relations, re-energize the Dalai Lama as far as gray zone warfare is concerned, or as far as information warfare is concerned. With that, I will go on to one last interesting factor, and that is, today everything can be outsourced in India. Manjeet mentioned, Alok, I think, mentioned that we have the largest number of hackers. Last year, in one of the attacks, we found out there is a company which is actually offering its services to hack. You want money out of Airtel? Give us the task. We will compromise their data, or we will steal their data, use it as a ransomware, get money. You pay us something, you take some dividends, I take some dividends. So what I'm trying to get at is that we have the resources available in our country today in terms of startups, in terms of freelancers. We should start utilizing them, and that's why I'm saying it's a civil military fusion space which we need to act upon, and we have to actually we have to actually I would say accept the way they act or behave. Alok said that these guys like to get up next day morning at 2 o'clock, but they'll work whole night. That is the kind of culture which they live in. There was a visit to UK of their so-called cyber security department, their hackers, etc. Believe you me, most of them were unshaven. Most of them were in their very jeans. with their legs either on top of the table or something like that. But when it came to producing work, as far as intelligence gathering through cyberspace is concerned, they were brilliant. So certain I would say lack of discipline, etc., has to be accepted as if you want to incorporate these people in your story. And dark web, of course. Dark web was something which Alok spoke. I had thought of speaking about it, but you preempted me. Good that it was spoken by an expert. I had come across this through our team's research, which was done by Colonel Dubey, and I must acknowledge his contribution as far as this particular presentation goes. He has gone into a lot of research to actually tell you all what exactly is going on in the gray zone domain. I'm leaving behind this presentation. All of you can share it. It's all from the open source, so nothing, no secrets about it, but it will definitely improve your awareness. With that, I wish to close my presentation because we are already behind time. We will, I would just say this, that a nation must exhaust all the means before going to war, and gray zone gives us that scope to do so. Despite the artificial intelligence, human mind will still remain the driver of all forms of war, including gray zone wars, but technology must become the extension of the mind. So human beings cannot be taken off. AI or no AI. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. That was a very informative session. May I now request the panel to open the floor for questions? I'd like to remind the audience again not to ask questions of classified nature. Also, due to the paucity of time, we'll only be able to take on 2 questions.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. Just tell your name and then to whom it is addressed.
So I'm Colonel Ajay Floria. This question is addressed to the general officers and then a comment to Mr. Alok sir. The question is with this sir, after hearing your panel, it is aptly clear that cyber holds a very important place in gray zone. And we as a country have also taken steps, and a lot of organizations that you listed in your slide have come up, including in military. My query is, sir, that what as Indian Army are we doing to nurture HR for filling the billets in these organizations, be it in officers, JCOs, and ORs? Secondly, sir, following a comment, sir, Mr. Alok said that the first thing that will happen once the hostilities break or the balloon goes up is that the networks will go down. So you said that probably then cyber goes out of the window. I would like to beg to differ from that, sir, because as you are aware that when any cyber operation is planned, from the planning stage till the execution stage, there is maybe years involved. So at any point of time, I think there can be mechanisms of trigger which can be put into the systems, which can even work after the hostilities break. So because everybody here might go out with a thought process that it cannot be used after the starting of hostilities, I think that is not the case. Thank you.
We can take one more question and then both the questions. No, we'll take 2 questions and then yeah.
Sir, I'm Colonel Karthik, sir. Sir, there is an observation that there is no threshold when it comes to cyber warfare. There are no levels to be crossed before realizing that, okay, we need to get on to the offensive or there's a war on us. Secondly, as you've also brought out, there are a number of organizations as well as a huge talent pool in our country, which has come through a screening mechanism of hackathons to develop expert in the cyber domain. With this background, sir, why don't we go on the offensive in the cyber domain and show our intent against our adversaries? Where are the gaps? Is it in the form of will, focus, or doctrine, sir, to go on the offensive? That's all, sir.
Okay, so we'll take first these 2 questions and then we'll move on to the next set of people. Yeah, Alok, you could respond to the networks break first, and I'll request Manjeet to respond to nurturing of HR in the Indian Army as far as cyber awareness or domain awareness is concerned. Yeah.
So when I said that when the balloon goes up, then the cyber will not act as a force multiplier to the existing activity. But I didn't say the cyber will go out. You see, in peacetime, you always prepare for a lot of botnets, and also the botnets are not placed. It is very strategically placed in different locations. There are a lot of theories on it. In fact, one of my theory is on this time zone based cyber attacks, wherein plus minus 4 hours of time zone is going to be very important. So these are a whole lot of strategies which are built up. Cyber would definitely work throughout, but the intelligence formed before the commencement of a war, that is something which will be done throughout the lifeline of cyber. That's one. Second one, when it comes to attack may not go through your country, but it will pivot through several different destinations that you prepare in peacetime. And that's why I say that foreign assets that you prepare in peacetime is going to be very helpful in terms of offensive battlefield. And that is what I meant. I never said the cyber will go out. No, cyber has to be there. It'll be there all through. It'll provide support services to you.
Yeah, Manjit, for the nurturing of HR in the Indian Army.
Thank you for that question. I think that's a great question, and we do have shortage of manpower today. When we came out with the National Cybersecurity Policy of 2013, there was a requirement of 5 lakh people to be trained over a period of 5 years. But when we look at the figures, the way the digital landscape or the digital public infrastructure has proliferated, it's gone down to the every citizen and last mile. I feel we now require 5 million people to be occupying the space or the workspaces in every facet today. Cyber security requirements are for everyone: the small enterprise, the big enterprise, the organizations, the army, the navy, air force, the government, looking at e-gov services and all that. So that's a given that we require to train at least 5 million people today. That's where we have come from 2013 to 2024. So that's a given. However, I take your point, and I know where you were getting at, that we are woefully short of the HR, and that too a skilled HR. And it is, I would request the commanders to take it on. And now we need to do a lot of restructuring of the courses in the Indian Army, looking at the realities on ground. We are already into the gray zone warfare, and I think there is a need to restructure right from our bio courses to specific courses in cyber security or cyber resilience, be it at the foundational level, mid level, and the top level. At the national level, we have certain programs. Government is funding a ISA program, Info Security Education and Awareness, but that's woefully short. Also, so therefore we need to work on it. That's a point given. We are also looking at the certifications. Today we are dependent on the international certifications, which may fetch you a job, may not fetch you a job, and therefore we are now looking at Indian certifications, and we're working on an ecosystem wherein we certify or accredit. It's a our initiative in consonance with the QCI, Quality Council of India, which has got those various boards, NABL, NABT, NABH, and all that. And through that, we are looking at the accreditation of the training bodies, the certification bodies, the certification and accreditation of the auditors, and the certification of the personnel. At 4 levels, we are looking at it. It's almost, the framework is finalized. Also, we'll have to look at the market pull. Because this cannot be done by government alone. It will have to be done on a PPP model. And therefore, we are also, like the IT got proliferated with the AppTech. The AppTech came in and the whole IT market really flourished. Everyone was trained through AppTech. He would get a job and there he goes. And thereafter he goes. So we are trying to create an ecosystem of that nature. So it's a work in progress, but I definitely give it that as military commanders also, we need to now restructure our courses. We now need to look at the realities of today, that this is the reality. We are in the gray zone warfare, and therefore we cannot go on to conventional studies. We need to really do our foundation on the conventional study and quickly go on to at least give few weeks out of the major courses onto these studies and also certify them. They should also, it should be incentive based. These certifications should come in handy to be employed as part of the armed forces as also elsewhere in the country, because so that's
I
what
think
is there.
I think
And second question, should I answer?
yeah, you can say that and then I'll
Yeah,
conclude.
so,
Just do it
the-
quickly, one or two lines,
Yes.
because the answer
So,
is very
yes.
straightforward.
So the second question is with respect to the thresholds. The thresholds have been defined in some manner as part of your cyber crisis management plans, as also when you notify your critical info infrastructure, there is a full notification which comes out, and any access to those systems or any scanning of these systems can lead to certain actions, and therefore you could correlate it with the sovereignty issues and also to act as per the UN Charter Article 51 in self-defense to look at your sovereignty in case your critical infrastructure is attacked, which can lead to loss of life and property. So therefore, some amount of red lines and thresholds have been set, but I think we need to do further on that. Thank you.
Because of the nature of the response, he restricted himself. Suffice it to say that these things are being worked upon. The only issue which I want to add here is that our training systems have to evolve, and towards that extent, War College has now floated a tender for looking at the entire training in a different manner. Given the technological evolution, they have opened the bids for the entire academic, including IITs, to bid for it and see as to how JC, SC, Higher Command, these courses will be restructured to ensure that the HR of the Indian Army is capable of undertaking any activity which takes place in the cyber domain, or for that matter in the entire technological domain. We'll take last two questions and thereafter I think we'll close, because we got just about 7-8 minutes.
Sir, I am Lieutenant Colonel Satish, sir. Sir, taking cue from the eminent speaker, sir, 35% of Indian communications satellites are under that is targeted by the China, sir. Sir, the Northeast situation volatile as a toolkit to exploit, sir, and the volatile situation has brought down in SAARC nation, sir. And there are various toolkits yet to unfold. Sir, this question is for Alok, sir. Sir, it took us a decade to get the global consensus on global terrorism, sir. Similarly, don't we think, sir, it's a high time to be resilient globally and rhetoric for formulation of some sort of international laws, public norms, public organizations, sir? Because we keep talking, sir, at a national level, at a tactical level, at a strategical level, we are doing all these things. But don't we think, sir?
So when it comes to international treaties and such kind of things, we are talking about the rules and the conventions. Let me tell you, it will not come in the next 10 years at least, because this space is for exploitation as of now. It's like nuclear non-proliferation. It only happened after the haves had it and the have-nots were told not to have it. So the cyber non-proliferation will only come when haves will have all the control and have-nots will be told stay off. So right now, I personally, in fact, a lot of efforts are going on for international convention, but it may not come in for the next 10 years because this space is open for exploitation as of now, and people are, in fact, invading into a lot of territory, getting into data. I want to talk about this data and information. You know, at one point of time when we were learning IT, we were told that data has no value unless it is converted and amplified into information and intelligence. Now we are going back to the paperboard and saying that we are back on data.
Alok will actually take on any interactive questions during the tea break. You can refer to Alok, Manjeet or me to seek your clarifications, since the other panel members have flights to catch. We will close this session at this place. I know we are to be faulted for having overshot our time. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Jan Gambhir, for having given us this opportunity. And thanks to our elders and the other panel speakers for having listened to us for the last 1.5 to 2 hours. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, everyone. May I now request the co-commander to kindly come up on stage to felicitate the panelists and also for a group photograph. I